Welcome to my daily review. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, and you're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which seems to be going a little sideways after this big 32% move. It's just, digesting the gains and allowing the moving averages to catch up. I have it on the 5 here. I guess I should switch it to the 10 for the index, but for leading stocks, I like to use the 5 because that's typically what they use in an uptrend. And we're certainly in an up market uptrend. You can see right there that it pulled back to its 10 and closed just a tick above it today. So, it's just allowing this green line here, the 10 EMA, to catch up. You got the green, the 10, the magenta, the 21, which is already traded through the slower moving 200. And now you're seeing the 50 starting to close the gap there with the 200, and that's going to drive through the 200. We're going to have a nice trend here with all four moving averages stacked, heading in the right direction. I believe that the 20,204 is a target for this index right now. I think it'll trade above it. Once it gets there, I'm expecting a little bit of a pullback, maybe to the 21, maybe to the 50. But I think it's going to trade it all-time highs here pretty soon. What is this, June 18th, I said? Maybe not this month, but next month. We got through the Jerome Powell presser today. They didn't raise interest rates or lower interest rates. They left them the same. The economy is pretty good. I think, all things considered, the market's climbing a wall of worry and heading higher. And we're not really so much concerned with the indexes as leading stocks, but it is nice to have tailwinds from the index when we're trying to trade those leading stocks. I'm going to get to those leading stocks in a minute, but you can see the Nasdaq was up 25 points or 0.13%, closed at 19,546. The volume was 17% below the 50-day, and you can see the last few days. Tomorrow is the stock market is closed for the Juneteenth holiday and will reopen on Friday. So kind of a fragmented week here, truncated, if you will. And then next week we have a full week, and the following week is July 4th. So it was only 4 days. So we're getting some, kind of messes with the options a little bit. So yeah, a lot of people like to close those out before Friday. I mean, Friday is, I don't know. We'll just take it one day at a time. How about that? Today, the market was a little cautious ahead of Powell. He didn't really say much, different, same old story with the Fed. And, it's business as usual, essentially. And that's why I think the market's going to go higher. The SPY was down just a hair. They could call that flat. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down just, flat, 0.1%. And then the IWM was the leading market, which I think is healthy, is up a 0.5% here, which shows more risk, right? These more riskier stocks, less proven stocks, smaller stocks. So I think that's good. And I'm going to be watching Bitcoin over the holiday, and we're going to come back Friday ready to go. And I've got just a lot to get to today. And I mentioned the leading stocks. I'm not going to go through the Mag 7. I want to mention, I have at mcstockcharts.com at the top of the page, I have these stocks that I post every morning that are showing relative strength that I use pretty strict criteria for. So a lot of stocks that are below like $35 or not have an RRS, a relative strength. Here, I'm going to go to one right here and just show you. Here's AEVA, certainly a strong stock, moving like gangbusters, but it's below 30 or $35. I had a stock that was 31. I had to change it to 35 because it's a total dog. Just one of those stocks that funds are messing with, but it has a lot of volume. So I do dollar volume. And so this probably, I don't know, would qualify for the dollar volume, but certainly not the price. So I like stocks above 30 to $35. So that disqualifies that, but this is certainly an A plus stock, right? It's a 99 rating, which you want, those top 2, 3, 4, 5% stocks in the market. Why mess with anything else is my thinking. And we know that trends like this are nice to trade. They're great for the portfolio, but at some point, the trend at the end, it bends, and you don't want to be holding these. One thing I can guarantee 100%, and there's not very many guarantees in the market, is that momentum stocks will, you know, this trend will eventually end at some point and it'll form a base. And we don't want to hold through a base building process. We want to hold while it's in this, ascending, it's ascending rapidly process, right? It's come from what, $2 in March, and it's now 27 here in the middle of June. So come a long way in a short period of time. So that's one of them. That's I'm just trying to show you some leading stocks that are not on that list that I post every morning, that are certainly quality stocks because people DM me about this stock's a leading stock, that stock, and it's true. It just doesn't meet my criteria. Right here is a $23 stock. There's nothing wrong with this. This is TSSI, and obviously a super strong stock, right? It's one of those trending stocks that we like to hold. Trend traders love. It's well, let me switch the moving averages here. Same with AEVA. These are surfing their 5 EMA, and that's what your uh, you know relative strength stocks are going to do. Here it is. So every time it comes back to this 5, it just finds support and bounces, right? So you wait for that here this one day here. When was this? The 13th? That was last Friday. Pulled back, yippee-ki-yay, down to 1810. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, woo, we're up to 23. So that's a nice move. Just this week, this stock, TSSI, is up 29%. So yeah, there's a lot of stocks out there with relative strength. So part of my criteria is a 3-month relative strength along with this RS rating, which is a longer term. I think this is like 9 months of, so it's a longer term relative strength, and I also use the shorter term relative strength, as well as above the moving averages, as well as volume, as well as boy, I forget the criteria. But anyway, look for those in the morning on the report, because a lot of those stocks are the ones that are leading this market higher, even though they're not talked about a lot. CRS is another one that I like a lot. Doesn't have a lot of volume. It's $250 stock though, and you can see it's just trending nicely. That's got to be above the 10. Yeah, it's above the 5, above the 21, above the 50. It might not have the volume. 97% to RS rating. And I'm sure the 3-month rating is above that rating. So just some of these stocks don't fit in, to the criteria, and I just want to point these out. That's all. This is Quantum Biopharma. I forget what they did, but it was below 30, and it doesn't have the volume. But man, this thing certainly is raging. It's on fire. Talk about a heater, man. This thing left the 5 EMA in the dust, 25% above the 5. You won't see that very often. PSIX is another one, a little more tame, a little more gentle. This is a machine restock. I think it's for the robotics and machining, but it doesn't have the volume. It does have the price, doesn't have the volume. 98 rating. It's just some of these just there's like one thing that doesn't fit in, so it doesn't meet my criteria. But there's still quality stocks, and that's why I wanted to point this out. Um, yeah, look at this thing just breaking out, moving higher. That's PSIX Power Solutions. The other one I wanted to point out was the first one was AEVA, but with the 5, right? So this thing continuing to bounce off the 5 consistently. And so once that trend changes, that's when you got to get out because these things can really crash and burn fast. They've got a lot of what you'd call a lot of people who bought lower and they've got big profits, so they're going to take profits at some point, and that could impact the stock price. All right, and a couple others here in the oil and gas business, man. These are not, I don't know, these are not qualifying, I don't think, and they certainly should. I'm not seeing why this one has volume. Oh, okay, it was just below $30. All right, but man, look at this thing, Comstock is one. GPOR is another one with okay, this is only an 88 rating. So this one, if you look at the weekly, this one just breaking out of this base. I didn't have it on my ready list this week. I had a couple of other oil and gas stocks, but that one looks good as well. That's only 88, but man, this last couple of weeks, I should go back to the weekly. Sorry about that, toggling back and forth. But yeah, up 5% this week. So GPOR, this is an oil and gas U.S. exploration stock, and the other one was EQT. This one's out of Pittsburgh, and 93 rating, so not quite there. So maybe these will be upcoming. So the thing about the list is that it's fluid and that some stocks, move up there and join the list while other stocks, crack and are below the list and, they get kicked out. And that's what you should be doing to your portfolio. Not every day, but, maybe every weekend, look at your portfolio and maybe kick out some of those stocks that are lagging. And then, put in some of these ones that are, showing momentum, relative strength, nearby points. What else do I have here? Oh, okay. APEI. That's a colorful chart. EQT. This is APEI, American Public. It doesn't have the volume. $29 stock, but still, I think this is one that somebody pointed out to me that how strong it was coming out of a base. 30.32 would be your buy point. And I think it traded above it today. Yeah. So he alerted me to that. So I thank people for that. I just talk, with people all day about trading stocks. I'm not, I'm not, my ego's not, so great that, all my stocks are better than anybody else's. I don't really care. I'm open-minded to, listening to other people and what stocks are working for them, what stocks aren't working for them. And so it's always good to just have a discourse and be open-minded, to stuff that's working for other people. So yeah, I don't own American Public Education, but yeah, it's certainly a nice looking stock with 95 RS rating. Okay, the other one was Flex. This one was in with JBL with that electrical contracting manufacturing stocks. Another colorful green chart. We like green, green the color of money. This one only has a 92 rating, so it's not going to qualify, but it certainly has been a monster from 25 up to 46 here since I believe, yeah, we got liberated there in April. Very nice. Has plenty of volume here, 4 million shares, average daily volume, 46. Just the RS is not there, and that's what I'm talking about. This could be a candidate to be on that list pretty soon, and it's near a buy point. So why I don't have that on my ready list this week, I don't know. I don't catch them all. Okay, 7% move this week. So yeah, it looks pretty good. JBL, I mentioned that when they reported yesterday, I believe. Nice response to the report. And I put different colors on these because I put them on my desktop, and my desktop gets filled with all these different types of charts so I can identify them, and that's why they're colored. I know it might bug people, but yeah, that's how I identify stocks. But yeah, up 16% this week, 22 billion market cap, million volume for a $200 stock, plenty of dollar volume, 96 rating. That one should be on there. It's well above the moving averages. Anyway, another one to look forward to is NNE now, $37 stock. It was up 13% today. That 37.23 would certainly, be a buy point here. If I don't have it on my ready list, I should. SMR, OKLO, and NNE are this nuclear group. That's a nice little consolidation pattern breaking out of there at 37.23. You can see the group, number one. Can't do better than number one, right? Yeah, we all want to be number one. All right. So, yeah, alternative energy. So that's just, I don't know, 10 or 12 stocks that are not on my relative strength stock list that are certainly strong stocks. I'm not saying my 24, 25, 26 that I post every morning are, the holy grail. Of course, there are other stocks in the market. There's 10,000 stocks to choose from. I'm just trying to narrow it down to some strong stocks for, my subscribers. Anyway. Uh, I'm going to get off that soapbox. Yes, acknowledging people. There are stocks out there. All right. I want to point out here some stocks that were on the list that recently you could see. I just mentioned how, these trends are great until they bend at the end. Then you got to get the hell out of Dodge. Excuse my French. But, you got to get out of town here. TMDX was nice, gapped higher, rode the five, and now it looks like it wants to take a trip to the 50 here. It's having a real terrible week, down 13%. So, yeah, so that one's losing its luster a little bit. But, this is the type of stock that if you're in it, you hate a move like this. You just despise it and you have to get rid. To me, I mean, it slices the 21 and in a tape like this, you got to get rid of it. But if you're not in it, you're loving it because if it comes down to that 50, which is climbing, every day. A couple days ago it was what, 105, and now it's uh, 111. So yeah, this climbing 50 here. If it wants to pull back to there, yeah, we'll take that. And a bounce off of that moving average would be welcome. But in a market like this, with the Nasdaq trending as it is, this thing rolling over like that is not a good sign. And that's why it's not on our list. TGTX, this one was on our list too until whoops, right here, 46 down to 32. That'll do it. Still a stock that I know over time is going to go higher. It's just stocks do this. They go into bases, and I don't want to sit in something like this for weeks and months and months and until we get that, right? And then you get into this base building process, which takes months. It's an opportunity cost when you could be holding core weave, which I went through yesterday, or Credo, which had a nice day today. And beholding this while it's just basing, it's kind of like lost time. That's all opportunity cost. Still a good stock. App 11, another one that's in the infirmary. It looks like it's really close to the 50 already. This one sliced its 21 heading to the 50. It still has an RS of 98 because, like I said, this is like a 9 month, kind of a lagging RS. I use a 3 month RS, which is still kind of lagging, but takes us back to before the Liberation Day. And yeah, App 11 looks sick, and you can obviously see, this trend is nice, that trend is not. So, like I say, I'll gladly admit it. I'm a front runner. I love stocks going up. I hate stocks going down. It's really simple. Bros, I like bros. I went by there today. It's 110 here, and the little employees are out there at service with a smile. They got these little backpacks on, these, I forget what they call them, like a Gore-Tex with ice in them, so it keeps them cool. And the kids are really friendly. And I was just go in there and chat with them. 110, that's pretty something to be working out there. And they say they go in every half hour and then come out. They go into air conditioned building, and they run the register, make drinks, and they come out and take orders outside. But still really crowded for 110. People are still getting their drinks. But this is what I talk about, the base building process here. This is a cup with handle, and it's just I had this on my ready list, I think, believe last week, and it's just not ready. It's not ready. It might take an earnings report, which is a few weeks away here. August 6th is what Market Surge has. But this one came off our ready list as well. It's trending nicely here, and then it wasn't. So that's why it came off. Not the ready list, our relative strength list. Rubric is another one, which was trending nicely, obviously. And then what happened? Well, it had earnings, and it went from 103 down to 85. And I'm not interested in holding, something like this, in a trading account because I can, trade something much faster. This thing will probably build a base and it's fine. I hold it in a retirement account. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the base building process takes time. And if you're a trend trader, you don't want to sit through that. GEV, another one that had this monster move, what, from 252 up to 500. It's a two bagger here, pull back to the 21, doing nothing wrong. It's just kind of below, or it's not 10% above. I don't know, 97. It's got the volume. Maybe that'll make it. Maybe we'll see tonight. There'll be another list on Monday, excuse me, Friday morning after the holiday. All right, those are the stocks that we're on and they're off. Then I showed you originally at the top of the show the stocks that are not on and for various reasons, either price or volume or whatever. And now I'm going to show the stocks that are on this relative strength list. They're not all, what I would call buys. I did have this one on our ready list last week. It jumped a lot last week. It was up like 11 days in a row, and it pulled back yesterday and had some people saying ASTS is a dog because it came back one day. I think we're getting really spoiled here, and I have to be mindful of that. This thing's up 16% this week. Yeah, it was up 11 days in a row, then yesterday pulled back to its five. That's all. And to me, so this is, if you're in it, you're going yippee-ki-yay, we're having a party, right? Then it pulls back one day. So if you don't own it and you miss those 11 days, that's your one day to get in. And now, so it pulled back to 38.82 yesterday, and today was up to 44. So this is a really fast moving stock. And you can see while it's on our relative strength list that I post every morning. It's got the volumes, got the relative strength data, it's got above the moving averages, yada yada yada. All right. ATI, this is a steel stock with Carpenter that wasn't on, but this one is. The group is a top five group. Wait a minute. Down nearly 3% today. So maybe this one will not be on tomorrow. That's see what I say when they break, right? And you can see the five curling down. So that one will definitely be off. So skip it. Sorry about that. CAR made a new high today. That one, this thing's just on a heater, and that's the type of stock that I like to, trade or own until the trend bends at the end. I don't own it, but that's the type of pattern. Just pointing that out. Kamiko, another one. Look at that thing's trending beautifully. Broke out with this cup with handle. This is why we monitor these cup with handle patterns. It broke out on this day, which was May 23rd, 11% move, pulled back to the five, found support, made that little like a ledge pattern here, a flat base wedge. I just call it maybe a fledge. And gap tire made a little pennant as it waited for the five to pull up. And then the five catches up. Now it's just trading higher. So Kamiko, another one of these nice stocks up nearly 5% this week. And 5% is a good week. Man, I got to tell you, folks, when I do my auditing, I do it usually quarterly. I just want to beat the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is up 10% in a year. I'm happy if I'm up 12%. I would like to be up 20% and double it. And, last few years I have been, but I don't try to sit there and do a super duper 500% year because that requires a lot of risk. And I'm a little risk averse. So you have to know that. But I do, I'm good at identifying strong stocks. That's my strength. I market direction and stock selection is my strength, but I'm not going to sit there and try to make a 500% gain. I'll take a 50% gain. That's just the way I'm wired. So just so you know that up front. CLS, this is another one of these electrical contracting manufacturing stocks, man. These stocks are really strong. This one is on the list. Obviously, it's just trending higher. Another one in the group that I noticed was our friends, the Solar Brothers. Man, this thing had a cup with handle. This thing's looking strong as well. The RS rating isn't there, but I'm talking about if you're looking for a buy point, you're looking at a stock here trading tight near its moving averages. Now, popping this week. It's up over 4% this week. So, we're going to take 4% every week. I will anyway. I'm not greedy. I'm not a greedy type. CRDO, this one was on our ready list this week. Popped today. It had that this is a little bit of a base here after gapping up after earnings, allowing the moving averages to catch up, right? It just pulled back right here to its five, and then it popped. It was up 7% today. By yeah, 16.5% this week. Sometimes I get lucky with my stock picks. The harder I work, the luckier I get, I must admit. But I picked some stinkers as well, and then, this one happened to work out for us this week. And Credo got an upgrade from TD Cowen with the buy point of, excuse me, a target price of 95, I believe. So that was the impetus for the move today with 100% above average, 50-day average volume. So good for Credo, and you can see why it's on our list. Not only on our ready list, but on our relative strength stock list. CoreWeave, I mentioned this one ad nauseum. You guys are probably sick of me mentioning it. I had some people today say it's topped, it's a climax top. The market cap is too high. This thing's overvalued. It made a new high today and pulled back. It's a total dog. I don't know why people do that. Either they're jealous. I don't know. I have no idea why people say that stuff. Probably because they're not in it. So this is my largest holding, and I don't really care what people say about it. I've done this long enough, and I've seen this movie before. Um, so yeah, it was down today while the market was up. So what? I don't care. I'm looking at it, a couple of months from now at 170s in the rearview mirror. I believe this is gonna, just be a way station. You know what? I'm going to go back. I am going to go back to eBay here. I'm sorry. If I, if I, I'm going to go back to eBay. I forget the day. What was it yesterday, folks? 11/17/1998. Yeah, I traded in 1998. I traded eBay. So that was the move prior to yesterday. That's why I have that date written down. There you go. And that was yesterday's move. according to, precedent analysis, okay, because you got this high tide flag pattern on eBay, the breakout here, running up, flagging very nicely. This is textbook stuff. And then so, this is yesterday's move here where it powered higher. This could have been an earnings move or just, I don't know what it was, but it's a 15% move on eBay back in 98. Then the next day, what did it do? It made a new high and pulled back at the close. It was down 2.5%. Then the following couple of days, well, we see what happens. So is that going to happen with CoreWeave the next couple of days? I don't know, but it could. And we know because I went through this stock yesterday. What happened here is I go through December, January, and March. This thing went from that 140 level up to 321. So, I'm just trying to point out it's not going to go up every day. And it had a hell of a day yesterday. And so it pulled back a little bit today. It's not the end of the world, folks, as I get back to June 18th. And that's why I don't like doing that precedent analysis because it takes time. All right. But yeah, okay. So I'll pull back today. All right. It's still above its five though, and it's still going to be on our relative strength list. 99, it's a, top 1% stock, obviously made a new high, as I said, but it's 4.7% above that green line, which is the five there. Okay. So it's been consistently pulling back to the five. So why would it not do that again? On Friday it could pull back. What was the five? Yesterday the five was 158. Today it was 162. So maybe $4, 166. So maybe on Friday it pulls back to 166, and then trades up to 180. That's the way it's kind of been rolling. I want to point out on a 30-minute chart, and I'm going through CoreWeave because I find this stock fascinating, that it pulled back to its old high from June 4th, I believe, or June 5th. Yeah, June 4th. And that's where it found support. And it hit it a couple times here, this 166 level, and today pulled right back to that level. So that's textbook stuff right there, found support. There's no distribution in this stock at all. It's just some profit taking after a big move on Tuesday, right? I mean, when you're up that much, you got to expect people to take profits. I mean, yeah, I mean, because there's no guarantee. Stocks, can do anything. The geopolitical stuff can go sideways and the market could, pull back. And so it's wise to take profits. Yeah, it was up 8% yesterday, gave back one today. So we'll take 8 to 1, all day long. Anyway, that's enough with that dog. We're going to go to a real fast moving stock, 212 after hours. Wow. I bought a little bit of this yesterday when I heard that the Senate had passed. It's about passed the bill that this goes to the House now and then to Trump's office to sign about stable coin. It was about 150 after hours. I bought it in my retirement account with my Coca-Cola and my waste management. And just to boost it a little bit because those dividend stocks need a boost, and I'm going to sell it and then buy more of the RPMs and the waste management stocks. But this thing surprised me. It's up 33% today and up after hours. My friends are saying, "No, you're going to sell it at 200." I said, "No. When something like this moves, I got it at 150. I'm just going to hold on to it and see what happens. I'm just along for the ride now." Yeah, this is just something a crazy move. Unexplainable. But I talked about CoreWeave with no distribution. This thing has no distribution. Maybe I should go to the 30-minute chart because it did pull back here after the IPO. It ran up very nice, and it just pulled back. And this would be your support right here around that 100 level. I showed you this a couple days ago that 100 was support. Then it ran up here and formed this little consolidation pattern. And this is just on a 30-minute chart, folks. So it doesn't have a great trading history. So I, broke it down to a shorter time frame. But man, this thing sure did rally today on that news. And we're kind of in a news-driven market anyway. So yeah, this is just a gift. So yeah, I will sell it and go back to buying Coca-Cola because that's just an account that I am going to bequeath to family and friends. So, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just wanted to point that out. GRAL. This is another one that's on our relative strength stock list, and just it's been more than a double. What was it? It's $20 when it got liberated. Now it's at 48. Nice pop today of 15%. Damn, why didn't I have this on my ready list? because this thing's trading tight within a base near its moving average on our relative strength stock list. If you own this, congrats. 44.72 would be my trigger here. And I just flat out missed it. That happens. I'm too interested in dissecting eBay from 1998. And I missed stuff. Hims had big news today that they're entering the gummy market for hair loss. I don't know about hair loss. I don't know, but this thing's forming a base here. It made that 65, pulled back, found support. Definitely, very distinct pattern here. Support at the 21 consistently, day after day after day after day, and now it's starting to move higher, up 3% today. I think it's had a pretty decent week here. Yeah, up 10% this week. Did I have that on the ready list this week? I don't think I did. It's kind of frustrating me a little bit, but definitely a strong stock. And yeah, so Hims, that's why it's on our list, right? Hood, this one benefited also from that stablecoin legislation. This one was up 4.5% today. This is one of those six stocks that I talked about that, I just think are going to have strong reports all year, and one that I just think that you kind of sock away. It was a 29 when it was liberated. Now it's 78. So this is what I'm talking about, folks, with the Mag 7. This is why I don't show you the Mag 7, because you're not going to get Nvidia or Apple or Microsoft or Google or Tesla to triple or at least 2.5 times in a short time frame, because they're $3 trillion market cap. They're not going to 6 trillion anytime soon. And that's why I think in a market like this you need the leaner, meaner, smaller cap stocks, even though this is 69 billion now. And that's why I just gravitate towards these stocks. And this is kind of the stocks that I only show and highlight, because I think those are the stocks that you should be in. They're going to supercharge your account. And that's how I, learn to make money in stocks. You don't buy those overloved. I know people love Tesla and love Nvidia, and that's like a cult stock because they've been so good for so long. If you own Nvidia, I mean, it's hard to part ways with this thing. Look at how great this thing has been for so long. So you think this is just going to continue and it's just going to keep going up and up and up. Yeah, and this thing's up 7% this month, not bad. Up 2.5% this week, not bad. But to me, if you want to make money, you got to be in those leaner, meaner stocks that are just rip roaring like this, LEU. Alternative energy, like I mentioned, this is the number one group. Now, man, this thing is just on fire. Another one, let me see here. SMR, OKLO, and LEU, the three stocks that are really pumping this. They're nuclear stocks. This one's gone from 49 right when we got liberated. I forget the day. Is it April 4th or April 7th? I forget. April 4th maybe was the day he said no more, suspend the tariffs, I guess. And April 7th was definitely the day they moved. But this thing's gone from, like I said, 49 to 180. You're not going to get that out of those large cap stocks. So that's why I just kind of point you to these ones. So that's the method to my madness. Sorry. MP, this one's got a monopoly on rare earth mining in this country, 18 to 37. Like I said, a two-bagger here since May 27th. Thank you very much. That's why it's on the list. NBIS, that thing looks sick today. Yeah, this is going to be off our list. It's not going anywhere. So maybe just pulling back. It's forming a wedge pattern, probably going to pop here pretty soon, but it'll be off the list because it's down below its 10 net. This is one that I have on my ready list this week for obvious reasons. Nice cup shape pattern. I would consider that a handle as it pulled back for like 5 or 6 days down to the 21. Now it's popped, 3 or 4 days this week, but excuse me, it's only been 3 days this week. So it's up every day this week, but it hasn't made a really strong move. Maybe yeah, 5.5% will take that. But you can see that last week pull back to the moving average, now pop this week. That's a handle. Pattern record's not picking that up, but it doesn't really matter. Like Cloudflare, if you own it, you're doing well. So congrats to you. I mentioned, OKLO, SMR, NNE. These things are super strong. OKLO pulled back to its 5 today, doing nothing wrong. It had that 400 million secondary offering, so that's going to take some time, I think. It's not going to be absorbed in a day or two. So look for that one to pop, though. It's certainly getting support at the 5 there. Pulled back to 60 today, I believe. Yeah, 59.62, and buyers stepped in. So that's a super strong stock as well. Palantir, everybody likes Palantir, Alex Karp, always in the news, highly publicized. It's kind of one of those stocks that I don't really care for because it's too noisy and it's got a huge market cap. But I just got to acknowledge the strength. It's on the list, 330 billion market cap. What do you think it's going to go to 660? Yeah, it might. Might even go to a trillion in time. Yeah, it's a stock that I like, but not my favorite because of the noise, but definitely 99% rating. You cannot argue with that. Big volume, very liquid, easy to get in and out of their options. Nice liquid trader there for Palantir. Roblox is just quietly going through that 100 number like poop through a goose. No Matambo. Matambo's on vacation. Here's another one, went from 50, to 100 in a short period of time. This is the type of stock that I'm talking about that you want to be in, like a rubric, Roblox just doubling and tripling in short periods of times. And that's how trend traders make their money. And yeah, so when it starts to, bend at the end, we'll sell it. But for now, man, that thing is just an easy, easy hold. Why? Because every time it comes back to that five, it finds support for a long, long time. How long has it been doing this, folks? Since this breakout here, April 9th. I mean, come on, just buy it on the five and it bounces off of there. It gets too extended above the five, you sell it, then buy it back and forth, yada, yada, rinse and repeat. Very nice, strong stock. SEZL has been sizzling. It's down the last couple of days. Oh no. Now, I don't want to be complacent here because it did have this big move down to the 21 a couple of weeks ago or last Monday when they sued, had a lawsuit against Shopify. And now it's pulled back the last couple of days to its 5 EMA. I expect a bounce there and made a new high on Tuesday at 152. Yeah, pulled back to 139 today where it's a five, five was 140. So look for this one to bounce on Friday. And if not, it could certainly crash through and it will be, adios muchachos, but at least off our relative strength list. But yeah, I am expecting, my expectation would be this will bounce Friday. And, it might be an expectation breaker, and that's the way it goes, as we saw with Dave's Not Here, which was trending so beautifully for so long, and now it undercut the 21. So that stuff happens. And okay, so anyway, I mentioned SMR earlier. Yeah, this thing's yeah, doing nothing wrong. A little choppy here, but still, trending higher. And we like trends. Yeah, it's up 1% on the week, but yeah, still trending higher. That weekly chart looks awesome. STRL, they're taking turns in this building heavy construction group. This is more of your AI play. This thing's gone from 96 to 223 once again, 6 billion market cap stock. They have the ability to move, unlike those 1, 2, 3 trillion dollar stocks that just aren't going to move that fast. This one's been surfing its five like Stephanie Gilmore. Aha, I gotta mix the females in there, right? Surf champion Stephanie Gilmore, surfer, sterling infrastructure. All right, a couple more, and then I'm gonna go. TEM is another one on the list. Hopefully it'll stay there. VRNA, the lonely drug stock on the list, surfing the five, very strong. VST, another energy play. Yeah, just surfing, very nice, Kelly Slater style. Zscaler is just having trouble here at 300. It's just loitering here. This thing is going to get arrested for loitering around 300. Call the cops. No, eventually at some point it's going to bounce off that five. It'll get an upgrade, or there'll be some news, contract, or something. It doesn't need news though. It is going to, I believe it's going to bounce off that five, which is now up to 304. So yeah, I would expect this to bounce either Friday or next week. I don't think it's going to sit there for much longer. Nice move following its earnings report, now forming that flat little ledge, fledge pattern, which, we're seeing a lot of this as the market goes sideways. We're seeing a lot of this, but it's still a relative strength stock there, 96 rating over the longer period. Shorter period, it's higher than that. Anyway, That's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up, except for we always like to honor the great Steve Jobs, who made many people in Silicon Valley very wealthy people. But that's not why we like Steve Jobs. All right. So we stay hungry, we stay foolish, we stay humble, and we also want to acknowledge some earnings tonight from Gorilla, our old friend Gorilla. They reported just a really phenomenal report here. And I had this on the ready list last week because the short-term moving averages, the 5 and the 21 rallied through the 50, and now this thing pulled back to the 50 today ahead of earnings. Really strong earnings report where they have a 5 billion backlog. Once again, this is a $347 million market cap. They turned from losing money, now they're making a profit. They turned a profit, I think, of 23 cents. Now it's not moving much after hours yet. It's up 11%, but some people might wake up to this on Friday and this thing could move very quickly. I like that little, what I would call a bull wedge pattern where it, rallies up from 15 to what? I don't know what it was, 25 or 30. It had a hell of a move that week. What was this, 25, 23.43? And now it forms this little wedge pattern back to the moving average right here, and that thing's going to pop. When companies go from losing money last year, 2024, to turning a profit, that's usually when they're their most, that's when they appreciate the most. And that's what stocks like TGTX is doing that. There's some others. I should do a video on those stocks that are kind of like turnaround plays. This is certainly one. They okay, so they reduced their debt. They have a stock buyback program. They're turning, my biggest thing is they're turning from losing money to a profit. That's a big deal. And yeah, $5 billion dollar backlog too. So they're going to be in business here for a while. And technically, the moving averages, the faster term moving averages have traded through the slower term. I think this one goes higher. I was just in a little early last week. I think this thing goes higher. Your 2089 could be used as a trigger. I might put this one on Friday right there because you got that nice little, base here from, make a guess. When was this? April 4th, right? So, no, April 28th. Okay, 2089, April 28th. Okay. So it's been nearly a couple months of basing here, and I think it's ready to pop. We'll see on Friday. That's it for me. Thank you for watching. Except for I lie. I do have one more thing. I want to mention Reddit because Reddit's been really hot this week. It's one of the stocks that's on my ready list. Like Credo, this one's up more than 15%, almost 20%. So like I say, sometimes I get lucky. But I just wanted to go to maybe like maybe a 10-minute chart. Yeah, it shows the pattern from the last couple of days. When a stock has this much overhead supply, this is short covering and then profit taking into the close. This morning gapped higher, then profit taking into the close. And you're going to get that when the stock has this much overhead supply, right? I mean, there's people here. If they bought it, 75, 79, 94, now it's at 130, they're going to take profits, right? This group in here. Then you have this group in here, which bought above 140. And when it gets back to their level, 150, they're going to sell. Back to even, I'm selling. Back to even, I'm selling. I do think it grinds higher. But for now, I mean, you got to admit that type of a move, there's going to be some selling. You saw that it was 38% still off of this 52-week high. I think it grinds higher, but that's just me. And yeah, nice move. Short-term moving averages, above the longer-term moving averages. You can see the 5 now rallying through the 200, the 5 and the 21 rallied through the 50 earlier, and that's why I put it on last week when it was below the 200. I know people don't like buying stuff below the 200, and now it's above 200. It attracts a different type of investor. A lot of fund managers just use their algorithm, their programs, and they don't buy anything below the 200. But now it's above 130.11 would certainly be a point of interest. I know it's got a gap there, but it also has gaps up here to fill. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to fill the gaps above or the gaps below. Anyway, just wanted to point that out. Also, some other stocks on the ready list. AR, slower moving name. And I sometimes like having slower moving names in my portfolio because if the market decides to have a bad day, this is more of a defensive name. Uh, This is a U.S. Oil and gas U.S. exploration stock. I mean, it's up, more than 3% this week, and I'll take 3% all week long. I'm not gonna, I'm not going to complain about that, but yeah, nice move off that 36 level. Another one that I have on my ready list this week is RRC. Again, the cup with handle pattern. This is just technical trading. I don't know much about the fundamentals or even what they do. I know it's a exploration stock. But yeah, I'm just saying that it's breaking out of a base here. Yeah, nearly 3% this week. And yeah, like I say, 3%, you can't complain about that. Credo, we went over that one. Another one on the ready list is doing well. And then I went over CoreWeave, which is on the ready list, and I would say it's doing well this week. I just put it on as that flag pattern, and it's up 15.5% this week. So, it broke out of the flag pattern here, and that's why I put it on, made that break. Now it could go sideways here for a while and allow, wait for that five. What did I say? 166. So it might hover there for a couple days. But I don't see distribution in this. I see a lot of institutional support. How do I know? Because institutions leave footprints like this, these big blue volume bars. That's not Aunt Sally buying this stock. Um, that's institutional footprints, folks. Anyway, I think I've talked enough tonight. Enjoy the holiday tomorrow. We'll be back Friday. I'll have a report on Friday morning. I'll have it out early because I'm traveling Friday morning. And what else? And then I'll have a weekend report. My next video will be Saturday morning with my weekend report. Everything looks good. The market looks good. We got past our Jerome Powell press conference, and the Nasdaq looks good. Just consolidating gains, and I think the market. If you're in those leading stocks, which I just went through a ton of them for about a half an hour or more, I think you're going to do fine. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.